A former police officer meets a grifter on Grindr and gets taken on a roller coaster relationship ride.
He reached out to me on an online app.
What app?
Grindr.
Were you looking to date an older man? Because it's a 26-year age difference between the two of you?
Correct. He came to me and asked if I would co-sign for a loan for him to have some plastic surgery done.
We also had discussions that he was an older guy and he had that kind of money and that kind of savings.
30 days after you meet someone on Grindr, they ask you for over $9,000, and you think this is a good idea.
Plaintiff Paul Davis says he gave his ex-boyfriend a loan to get excess skin removed, but after the defendant recovered from surgery, they broke up. He's suing for a loan for surgery and a cell phone bill. He's accompanied in court today by Marilyn Emerson. Defendant Taylor Timmons says he doesn't know because Paul offered to pay for the plastic surgery and told him that the money was a gift between lovers.
All rise. Court is in session. The Honorable Judge Faith Jenkins presiding. Please be seated. Your Honor, the litigants have been sworn in. This is the case of Davis versus Timmons.
Thank you, Juan. Paul Davis?
Yes, Your Honor.
You are suing the defendant Taylor Timmons
That's me, Your Honor.
for $8,532 you say he owes you for a loan.
Correct.
And a cell phone bill.
Yes, Your Honor.
And you understand the statutory maximum in my courtroom is $5,000, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so why don't we start from the beginning and tell me how you met the defendant and what happened here?
Certainly, Your Honor. He reached out to me sometime towards the end of March of this year, first part of April, on an online app.
What app?
Grindr.
Okay.
So a online dating.
What is Grindr?
It is a mail site for dating.
For dating?
Yep.
So you were on there looking for a relationship?
That is correct.
And
Your
you
Honor.
were as well?
Yes.
Okay.
And so he reached out to me, and we chatted back and forth for quite some time. And then
Why did you reach out to him?
Found him handsome, had a good profile.
Okay.
Said good things.
Were you, I'm just curious, were you looking to date an older man?
Yes, Your Honor.
And you were looking for someone younger?
Yes, Your Honor.
Because it's a 26-year age difference between the two of you?
Correct.
Okay, go ahead.
Yes. Made arrangements to meet one Friday evening after work, and we went to a local restaurant. Had an enjoyable evening, and from there, the relationship continued to move forward.
Okay, and so what were you doing at the time for work? Where were you working? Where were you living?
I had just moved to Minnesota, and I was working for Caribou Coffee. It's a coffee place in Minnesota.
And what was your position there?
I was a store manager in training.
And approximately how much were you making a week or a month?
$20 an hour.
Okay, and you were aware of his financial situation?
Initially, when we talked, he portrayed himself as a district manager for Caribou and that he had oversight over 5 locations. It made sense as the relationship went on because as I would meet him at work, it would be at different stores. It wasn't always the same store. Mm-hmm. And so I believed that he was a district manager as he portrayed himself to be.
Okay. When does the issue of money first come up and why?
He came to me and asked if I would, initially, if I would co-sign for a loan for him to have some plastic surgery done. He had done a massive weight loss through surgery, mm-hmm. and as a result of that, had a bunch of excess skin that needed to be removed that was hanging. Mm-hmm. And he said that because of his college debt and such, that it was difficult for him to get a loan, and they would get him a loan, but it was at a 25% interest rate. I was not comfortable in signing that note and paying that type of interest.
Was he your boyfriend at the time?
Yes.
Okay.
So we talked about it, and I agreed to do it. He gave me a down payment in cash.
Well, how much was he asking you for?
Over $9,000.
Over $9,000?
Yes, Your Honor.
30 days after you meet someone on Grindr, they ask you for over $9,000?
Yes, Your Honor.
And you think this is a good idea?
At the time, yes.
What's going on? You tell me your side of this story, because you say you have a very different story to this, what he said.
I do have a different story. It was kind of more of the romantic approach that we met and we were boyfriends, and about 30 days into it, I was on my own seeking plastic surgery to remove loose skin from my weight loss. And when I went to the surgeon, I found out it was $9,300, and I had options. It was to do care credit, which is a great program, but it's 25% interest rate, which we were dating already for a month, so I had that discussion with him.
A whole month.
A whole month, yes. Stranger things have happened.
So you had a surgery to lose weight. What kind of surgery did you have?
I had a vertical sleeve, so they
Okay.
remove your stomach pouch.
How much weight did you lose?
I've lost 175 pounds.
170. Wow, that's a lot. You submitted photos to
I
the
did.
court?
I have
May
photos.
I see them?
Yeah, of course. So on the left one, that's kind of my highest weight. I was 342. I was a size 46. And then the middle one is kind of that loose hanging skin on my stomach.
That's the surgery that the two of you had the discussion about to remove that loose skin?
Correct. It's called
Wow.
a circumferential tummy tuck. They go all the way around and remove it. Was really self-conscious, and that's kind of the discussion we had, is that my journey was not done yet, and that I was really self-conscious of that, and he really wanted to help me get rid of it. And the right picture is them actually once it was removed. That's me staring at my fatter self.
So you take a lot of selfies now, is what you're
do.
telling me?
Coming up, the guys disagree about the details of the money discussion.
You managed to get over $8,000 out of this relationship. Pretty good deal for you, right?
It's not why I went after this relationship.
You're exactly right. That's exactly what happened here.
Plaintiff Paul Davis says Taylor only dated him to get the money for the excess skin removal surgery. He's suing for a loan for surgery and a cell phone bill. Defendant Taylor Timmons says he doesn't know because the cash from Paul was a boyfriend gift.
So what specifically do you say the conversation was about the money? Because you say he gave you this money.
He did, and the first discussion was, hey, care credit, and he agreed that as a business decision, 25% interest is horrible. You know, I'm a young guy, he's an older guy. We also had discussions that he was an older guy, and he had that kind of money and that kind of savings, and that in a year or two he was going to retire.
Is that the reason why you wanted to date an older guy, someone with money?
No, that's not the money, it's more of the stability. I grew up in kind of a bad household, and I didn't have that kind of stability, so the thought of an older man having that, I sought after. It wasn't the money.
But 30 days after you met him, he ends up giving you over $8,000.
Exactly, and that's not why I met him at all.
So when do you say the issue first came up, when he started asking you, well, I want this money back?
So the issue came about after he had paid, after we had paid, and we had that kind of awesome feeling of, hey, can't wait, we're gonna have surgery. We're actually gonna have it sooner than I had planned financially. I thought everything was fine, and then pretty much every week something would come up that he was not happy with and wanted to cut things off.
So what, for example, and what do you say he said to you about the money at that point?
He said there's got to be a way that he can get his money back. You know, do I make monthly payments? Do I get a loan out and pay him back? And he just kind of kept up with this discussion, but it was every time he wanted to break up. The minute breakup happened, money came into play.
And you said he was the one trying to break up with you.
Yeah.
When did the relationship end?
I think about 3 weeks after we actually had the surgery.
Okay, so the two of you only dated for a little over a couple of months.
Correct.
Before you broke up. But in that time period, you managed to get over $8,000 out of this relationship. Pretty good deal for you, right? You were on to the next Grindr app?
It's not why I went after this relationship, and I got a lot out of it.
What do you say about it, sir?
Your Honor, you're exactly right. That's exactly what happened here. I discovered the night before his surgery that he had lied to me. And remember, I told the court that he portrayed himself as a district manager for Caribou. He comes clean and initially told me that, well, I'm just a trainer. And when I confronted him about why were you not truthful about this, his response was that he wanted to be on the same playing field, as it were, for education, financial stability, and such in our relationship, so that he would be an equal. Had I known about that from the very beginning, I would have never gone down this path.
That is in the very beginning. It's 30 days after meeting a stranger on a dating app. I always say, you know, when people meet on these dating apps and the issue of money comes up very early in the relationship, especially this significant amount of money, it's a red flag. I'd expect you to do a little bit more due diligence. I read your papers and you work in law enforcement.
That is
so as a
correct.
part of your job, how many years have you worked in law enforcement, sir?
30.
30 years. So you are a trained professional investigator.
Who got hoodwinked.
And you got bamboozled,
Yeah.
according to you, within 30 days of meeting,
Yep.
you know, this youngin' on Grindr.
And, Your Honor, I freely admit I am embarrassed about this. You hear about these things, and you don't believe that it's going to happen to you. And as a result of that, I put my defense shields down. And I should have never done that.
Why did the relationship between the two of you end? He said that you ended the relationship. Is that not the case?
No, Your Honor, he did.
Oh, and what was that conversation?
And he just told me that just couldn't be with me anymore. And he said that I was too unstable and emotional and this and that. Said, you can go.
You brought a witness with you today?
Yes, I did.
You want to step up, ma'am? What do you have to add to this case?
Well, that it was a loan. I'd seen Mr. Timmons. Mr. Davis showed me Mr. Timmons' paperwork the next night after he had signed.
What paperwork?
He had signed a loan.
Oh, he signed a loan document agreement?
Yes,
Yep.
Your Honor, he did.
Really? You didn't mention that.
I did not mention that. It was in the
Any
midst of all
particular
of the
reason?
duress.
Because it's not good evidence for you?
No, it's not good evidence. It's the way it came about, and the way he's kind of portraying me is just not true.
Coming up on Judge Faith, Paul's bestie steps up to add her testimony about the roller coaster relationship.
You work in law enforcement too?
I'm retired.
Oh, wow. So I'm sure you had a conversation with him about giving this young man over $9,000 after you just met him?
Yeah, we did have that conversation.
Plaintiff Paul Davis says Taylor used him for cash. He's suing for a loan for surgery and a cell phone bill. Defendant Taylor Timmons says he doesn't know because Paul scared him into signing a loan repayment agreement.
I have a document here dated May 4th, 2015 with your signature that you agree to make monthly installments of $250 for 3 years. You just met him on Grindr a month ago.
And that's the exact point, Your Honor, that the paper that he brought to me was more like a, hey, I want to save myself from what ifs, and it was
You
I
signed
don't even
it?
know.
You
I
can
did
read,
sign it,
right?
and
you
was
read
after,
it? You read it, sir?
I agree. I signed it, but that was after 2 months, after he paid for it, after he agreed that it was the gift of, I love you, baby, we're going to get this, you know,
So,
for
Mr.
you.
Timmons, so you know what you say when someone brings something to you like this? If it's not accurate, I won't sign this.
Yeah, and
I won't sign it. You know at this point this is a contractual agreement, right? And he's bringing this to you because he said, I loaned you the money. What you want me to do now is look at this document and disregard it completely and credit your oral testimony here in court today when you signed a document saying you would pay all this money back. Why should I do that? And you want to come into court and tell me this was just a gift and it's all one big misunderstanding and did he put a gun to your head and say sign this? He works in law enforcement. Did he
I was
put a
gonna
gun
say,
to
he
your
had a gun
head?
on the counter
Did
when
he do that?
made me sign it.
Did he do that, sir?
He was in uniform, so.
Oh, he was in uniform. So you felt intimidated
Your
and
Honor,
threatened? Is that what you're telling
an
me?
absolute lie. He signed it that morning at the breakfast table.
So he didn't force you to. He didn't
I was
threaten
off
you
that
to.
day, Your Honor. I got up, we had breakfast.
So you were having coffee and croissants and you felt intimidated when he presented you with this document. That's what you're telling me?
Yeah.
I was persuaded to sign that document.
Okay, well you're an adult. You're 26 years old. You're an adult. You've had 2 major surgeries. You've made a lot of decisions in your own life. You have a job. You take care of yourself for the most part, except when you're looking for somebody to help you pay for over $8,000 in surgery. But you clearly know how to make your own decisions. I don't believe for a second that you were persuaded. That doesn't bother me. The only way this document isn't legal is if he threatened you or coerced you by using threat or force, and you're not telling me that he did that. So you signed this of your own free will, agreeing to pay this money back.
Your Honor,
What is your relationship with the plaintiff?
We're friends.
Friends.
We've known each other through law enforcement, and then after I've retired.
You work in law enforcement too?
I'm retired.
Oh, wow. So I'm sure you had a conversation with him about giving this young man over $9,000 after you just met him?
Yeah, we did have that conversation.
And Your Honor, the interesting thing with this, with the loan is that, he indicates that it's a gift. He portrayed himself through this whole thing as, as being that district manager. And what he told me is that it won't take me 3 years to pay this back. I get commissions and such based on the performance of my stores. I used to be a district manager.
Did you see any of his pay stubs?
No,
So you don't know how much money he was making?
that's correct, Your Honor.
It's a contractual agreement, and being in law enforcement, you'd think that these discussions would happen. That's why I'm like, this is such an odd paper for me to sign.
What?
Not a real paper.
You think he should have
Totally
grilled you
fake.
more? He should have interrogated you? What are you saying?
That it was, I don't know.
You're judging his technique now?
No, I don't know.
Yeah, you don't know, Mr. Timmons,
I don't
because
know.
there's really no excuse, sir. I think we both know what happened. I think everyone watching knows what happened. You took advantage of a situation, and I'm just a little in shock that you allowed that to happen. I don't know if my sister came to me and asked me for $9,000, I'd have to vet her. Well, what's going on? I need to see some. I need to see some checks or something.
Coming up, Judge Faith rules. And now, Judge Faith rules.
There's one other issue. You say that he owes you for a cell phone loan?
Yes.
When did that happen?
On May 31st, he sent me several text messages, and he said that I know that our relationship isn't in a good spot right now, but I really need your help paying my cell phone bill before they turn it off.
So you must have been scared out of your mind. When he comes to you, you've given him $9,000, and he said his phone is about to be cut off, because that means he is broke. He has no money.
Oh, and Your Honor, that was
You know you're not about to get $9,000 back. He can't even get a cell phone.
Correct. And that's when I looked at it, Your Honor, and went, oh my God, if I let the phone get cut off, I have zero chances of trying to recover any of this.
What was
job.
going on? Why couldn't you get a cell phone? You were working, right? Or you just saw it as another opportunity to get some money?
No, it's not what
Out of
happened.
Daddy Warbucks? So you owe him for the cell phone too, is what you're telling me.
Did we have a discussion of me paying him back? I don't remember, so.
Your Honor, we clearly had a discussion that was going to get paid back.
Are you still on Grindr? Are you moved on past that now?
Yes, Your Honor.
Bad experience?
Yes, we're done with that.
All right. So here's what I'm going to do. I find in this case there's really no dispute that this was a loan based on the documentation that you did have the wherewithal to get. You know, this is what happens sometimes. You don't use your best judgment when
Correct.
it comes to matters of the heart, but we've all made those mistakes. As I instructed you earlier in the case, Mr. Davis, the statutory maximum in my courtroom is $5,000. He owes you more than that.
That is
However,
correct, Your Honor.
I'm ordering him to pay you the max, which is $5,000. Judgment for the plaintiff.
Thank you, Your Honor. Hard lesson learned. It's embarrassing to come on TV and admit your personal life. And I just appreciated the fact that she was considerate.
So I thought all of this was from love, and it was all romance, and I was getting, I don't know, a gift of sorts. He was excited, inspired by my story, and wanted to help me, and it didn't end up like that.
She helped her BFF get bigger breasts, but now she wants her money back.
This is something that she wanted for a very long time. This is over 3.5 years she's been talking about this boob job. And you know what? I'm gonna make her dream come true.
So what happened? You gave her $5,000 in cash?
I gave her $5,000 in cash.
Who gives someone $5,000 in cash without getting a receipt, or why would you do that?
Plaintiff Brandis Bogg says her former medical marijuana dispensary employee begged her to cover the cost of breast augmentation surgery and then refused to pay her back. She's suing for an unpaid loan. Defendant Kylie Lucero says the new breasts were a gift because her former boss had a lot of money and wanted to help. She's countersuing for harassment. She's accompanied by Troy McConnell.
All rise. Court is in session. The Honorable Judge Faith Jenkins presiding. Please be seated. Your Honor, the litigants have been sworn in. This is the case of Bogg versus Lucero.
Thank you, Warren. Brandis Bogg,
Hi, good morning.
you're suing the defendant Kylie Lucero
Yes,
for $5,000 you say she owes you for a loan.
correct.
Okay, so why don't we start from the beginning? You tell me how you know Miss Lucero.
Well, Kylie and I started volunteering in dispensaries in summer 2011. And then
What kind of
from
dispensaries?
Medical marijuana dispensaries.
What do you mean by volunteering?
Volunteering, we volunteer our services, our time to help serve patients, make sure that they're knowledgeable of the medication that they are receiving.
So you weren't getting paid?
Correct.
And what were you getting in exchange for volunteering?
Medicine, marijuana.
Okay. And so you have a, right. This is a California audience.
Yeah.
So you were volunteering at the dispensary. In exchange, you were getting medicinal marijuana, you're saying, for
Correct.
free. And so this was like your full-time, what you were doing full-time volunteering at this dispensary?
I was doing it part-time. I had a part-time retail job as well.
Okay, and what about you?
Why I smoked?
Yes.
I didn't have any medical condition. We also made tips too.
Did you get medicine as well?
Yes.
But you don't have a
But I
condition.
don't have, no, I don't.
How did you get a prescription if you don't have a condition?
Anybody can get a prescription nowadays.
I see you over there cleaning your nails, sir. You act like you don't even want to look at me right now. Who are you?
I'm her boyfriend.
Why don't you have a seat for a second? So the two of you met at a dispensary?
Correct.
You say, and then that dispensary got shut down.
Correct. Yeah.
Why is
most,
that?
Most alcohol.
Because she was getting medicine for free? And that's illegal?
Yeah, you would think, but the DEA comes in and shuts down whatever federally they assign to state police. They go ahead and do because it's a federal order. So,
Were you the only one getting free medicine, or were there others?
There were others.
Yeah.
Everybody-
That's why the
everybody
DEA
does
came in.
Yeah.
Are you aware of this? Are you aware of this sort of volunteering at dispensaries in exchange for medicine?
Not to my knowledge, no.
Coming up, a half-baked contract causes confusion.
They told me as long as it's written down and signed, then you have a contract.
witness.
There was
So
a
there
witness.
was
I don't need a witness. She just, hold on a second, sir. She just admitted to the court that she read and signed this agreement.
Yeah, but
I
I
don't need a
didn't think it
witness.
was like
She's the best witness right here.
Plaintiff Brandis Bogg says she wanted to see her former employee happy, so she agreed to let her borrow the money for the new breasts. She's suing for an unpaid loan. Defendant Kylie Lucero says she doesn't owe anything because the money was a gift and not a loan. She's countersuing for harassment.
So after that, she goes to get her old job back at her other dispensary under the boss that she did not like. And that's fine. This whole time, though, she's been talking about getting a boob job. I want to get a boob job. I want to get a boob job.
And you talked to her about borrowing
She
the money.
begged me.
Well, tell me about the conversation. Tell me what happened.
She was like, I have $30,000 just sitting here. Like, I wouldn't mind giving you the money for your boob job because I couldn't get finance.
So what do you say the conversation was?
The conversation was she came over, she's like, I really need this money, like, you know, this and that. And then the next time I visited her, it was like, I only need $5,000. I only need $5,000. Please, please, I'll pay you back, I promise.
Did you ever tell her
begging.
that you had $30,000 sitting
No.
in your bank account?
No.
She offered because she felt guilty.
I did not have
So you're
She had
saying that she
30,000
offered,
cash.
you're
Cash.
saying that she offered, volunteered
Offered.
to give
Volunteered.
you $5,000, no strings attached,
Yep.
just because the two of you were volunteering together at a couple of marijuana dispensaries and had become friends?
Yep, I thought she was my friend.
She had offered her multiple
Court,
times.
you are
I have
her
not
boyfriend?
offered
yeah,
anybody
we-
multiple
over
times
to the
in
lab.
cash.
we lived together, and she told me, she's like, yeah, Brandy offered
Well,
to
did
loan
you
me the
hear
money.
her, did you hear the conversation, or are you just telling me what she
No,
told
what
you?
she had told me. She said she offered her the money, but she didn't want to have to owe her money. So
Basically, I got tired of her begging me. I was like, okay, you know what? I can manage. If we're gonna go ahead and do this loan, then I wanna write a contract that states that you have to pay me back X amount per month.
Where'd you get the money from?
It's something I've saved over the years. I'm privileged. That's all I gotta really say. I mean, I know how to manage my money and I don't pay rent. So I figured, you know, I'll help somebody else out. I'm a good person. I put others before me. And, you know, if this is something that she wanted for a very long time, this is over 3.5 years she's been talking about this boob job, then, you know what, I'm going to make her dream come true.
So what happened? You gave her $5,000 in
So, yeah,
cash?
I gave her $5,000 in cash.
Why would you
and-
give her $5,000 in cash? I'm just curious.
Because
But you say you know how to manage your money and how responsible you are, and I'm just wondering who gives someone $5,000 in cash without getting a receipt, or why would you do that?
I used to do her hair too in exchange for that.
You used to do her hair in exchange for what? $5,000?
Yeah, for her giving me that money, yeah. I'm trying to be nice and pay
I
her
would
back
have to
What do
do
you
a lot
charge
to
to do
my hair for
someone's hair?
$5,000.
When she used to pay me, it was $200.
She used to drive an hour and a half to me She never would specify, okay, it's gonna be $70 for this. She would be like, I don't know, just pay me whatever you want. So every time she did that,
Did you get the breast implants?
Oh yeah,
How much did they cost?
6,000.
You used the $5,000 that
she
you
gave
got
me,
from her,
yes.
that you say she gave you.
I have the pictures of the before and after.
May I see the photo? Oh, do I want to see this?
On the left is before and on the right is after, which is a very obvious difference.
I mean, okay, so,
You know?
well, she admits that she got the
She's
breast
basically
implants,
flat
so
on the left,
it's
and
not-
then on the right
that's
she has big old knockers on that side.
Well, I mean, it's not in dispute. She admits
She's
that
always
she
wanted
did
a
get the
boob job too,
implants.
so don't let her fool you.
I appreciate the photo, but it's not in dispute that she got the
Correct.
boob
She has
job.
photos of me.
But the question is, do you have any evidence that this was a loan versus a gift?
I do have a written contract.
You signed a contract?
It was not a contract.
May I see what you have, please? What do you say
It's
it is?
online piece of paper. It was a joke. Yeah.
I mean, I come from
There's
a
no
background.
lawyer. There was no.
So
I
just
gave
because
no
it's on a lined piece of paper,
I come
you're not
from a-
taking it
joke.
seriously? It's a joke, and I shouldn't take it seriously?
I mean, I come from a background of
Did
lawyers.
you sign this? Why don't you
She
show
was
the
high
card,
when she
please?
wrote it, so.
To be honest, I come from a background of lawyers. They told me as long as it's written down and signed, then you have a
The
contract.
witness.
Why isn't he here then? Because he's a
I'm
witness.
asking you a question, ma'am. Is that the document you signed?
Yes.
Okay.
There was
So
a
there
witness.
was
I
somebody
don't
there.
need a witness. She just, hold on a second, sir. She just admitted to the court that she read and signed this agreement. She's the best witness right here. She
It
signed
says boob fund.
I mean, this is really clear cut. You both signed an agreement. She loaned you $5,000. You agreed to make monthly payments for a year.
She also
of
said I could do
payments
her
between
hair.
$400 and $450. How many times have you done her hair since you signed this agreement?
4 times.
Okay, so to be fair, since you did make this side agreement that she would do your hair in exchange for deducting some of the money from the $5,000, here's what we're gonna do. And she did your hair 4 times. So I'm going to deduct $800 for your hair services. What is your counterclaim for $1,000 for harassment about?
For her harassing me for her money.
Asking for the money?
Yes.
Okay, I see no evidence of harassment, ma'am. So your counterclaim is dismissed. Judgment in this case for the plaintiff, $4,200.
A bio dad with a history of bad behavior brings his daughter to court to collect a loan he made for her cancer treatment.
But I remember my mother always being honest. She showed me the picture. This is your biological dad, but that's your daddy, and he loves you. He's the one that takes care of you. He was at the hospital when I was born.
And I've been her father ever since she was born.
I don't think I should talk a lot about what went on between her mother out of respect for her mother. But if you want me to defend myself, I will. About being her biological father, I may not be.
You don't let a child grow up believing that you are their father because you're not sure. It's your responsibility to resolve that issue so that the child doesn't grow up believing they are being ignored by their father.
Plaintiff Bud Terusa says he had a one-night stand with the defendant's mother over 40 years ago and only got a call because the defendant wanted money. He's suing for a personal loan. Defendant Catherine Lettieri says she owes nothing because the money was a gift until Bud changed his mind and started harassing her to pay it back. She's accompanied in court today by her stepfather, Art Lettieri, and her brother, Scott Lettieri.
All rise. Court is in session. The Honorable Judge Faith Jenkins presiding. Please be seated. Your Honor, the litigants have been sworn in. This is the case of Terusa versus Lettieri.
Thank you, Juan. Bud Terusa,
Yes, ma'am.
you are suing the defendant, Catherine Lettieri,
Yes, Your Honor.
for $2,000 for a personal loan you say she owes you for?
Yes, Your Honor.
And who are you, sir?
I'm Catherine's dad.
Okay, and you are her
I'm
brother?
her brother, yes.
Okay, wonderful. And you are her biological father, sir?
I think so.
Okay. Why don't we start from the beginning and you tell me what's going on here?
Okay, I knew her mother. We dated off and on for quite a few years. And I was single, and she called me one night, and I hadn't seen her in a while. And she asked if she could come over. And I said, yeah, come on. You know, I fixed some dinner, and We had an affair, and she left. And 2 months
You
later...
had an affair?
Yeah, we had sex. Okay. And she left, and 2 months later, she called me and told me she was pregnant. And then a while later, she wanted to know my blood type. And I said, well, I don't know what it is, but I'd have to go see my doctor. And she said, well, forget it. I didn't see her. We'd talk off and on, and then she had Catherine. And when Catherine was like, I think 6 years old, she called me that she had told Catherine I was her father, if I would come see her. You know, at this time I'm married, I got 4 step-kids, I got 3 kids of my own. So I went over there a few times, and I met Catherine, and then eventually I didn't see her for a while.
Okay, so you only saw Catherine a few times during her childhood?
Yes, until she was about 16.
Okay, and why don't you give me some background?
Well, as long as I can remember, my mother was honest with me. She showed me a picture. She had a picture of Mr. Terusa, and she showed it to me. And she said, this is your father.
He's on your birth certificate?
Yes. This is your biological father. And that man out there, because I was little, and I remember my dad was waiting outside because he's my brother's father. And my mother and him were split up. And my mother had an affair with Mr. Terusa while he was married. Okay. And, you know, she got pregnant with me, but I remember my mother always being honest. She showed me the picture. This is your biological dad, but that's your daddy, and he loves you. He's the one that takes care of you. He was at the hospital when I was born. So on my birth certificate, it says my mother's name. It says Mr. Terusa's name with both of their signatures, but my last name is Lettieri.
Okay. How many times did you see your biological father as a child? Do you recall?
Not as, I saw him once when I was like 6.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I must have been about 8.
Okay.
When I saw him.
And what do you say happened when she was 16 years old?
Okay, she had called me and said she wanted to borrow some money. She wanted to borrow $500. And she said she'd pay me back.
At 16?
Yeah. So I loaned her the money, but...
Had you been paying child support or providing any support for her?
No.
So you loaned her $500?
Pardon?
You loaned her $500?
Yes.
How was she supposed to pay you back at 16?
I don't know. She just said she would.
And she did?
No.
Okay.
No, I did not. And he called my mother and tried to get the money from my mother?
No, I didn't.
Hold on a
She's not
second.
telling you the truth. I just talked to her mother about it.
About getting the $500 back?
I asked her why she wasn't paying me.
Because she's 16? Did she have a job?
I don't know.
Okay. And you're not paying child support?
No.
And you're concerned about, and you're her biological father, you've given her $500 once in 16 years, and you're concerned about her not paying you back?
Well, you know...
I'm just curious.
You know, listen, I don't think I should talk a lot about what went on between her mother out of respect for her mother. But if you want me to defend myself, I will.
Well, no, I'm asking you because you said
do.
that you called her and she called you. This is not about her mother. You said she called you. She
Okay.
called you, not
Well,
her mother,
I'm talking
right?
about being her biological father. I may not be.
So why didn't you inquire? If all these years you say you didn't know, why didn't you get that resolved?
They called me one time. I know I got some legal papers to do something about a blood test, so I turned it over to my attorney. And he was dealing with, I guess, a district attorney? I'm not sure. And then they dropped it.
I have no problem taking a paternity test at all. None. I would actually be happy if he was not my biological father. But the fact is, he is.
Let me say something else, too. After I loaned her the $500, she kept calling me only when she wanted something. And I told her, oh, I only hear from you when you want something.
I didn't want anything to do with him.
Okay. So for 20 years you didn't hear from her until she wanted
Right.
something.
He never reached out to me.
She was a child, and you say that you're her father, right? Like you had that understanding of your relationship at the time. That's what you communicate, and she believes that to be the case, and that's what you've communicated to her, right?
Well, I didn't want to not communicate it. How would that make her mother look? If I wasn't sure, I wasn't sure, but I just
Okay,
went
but you're
along with it.
complaining because you say she only called you when she wanted something.
Yes.
And so my question for you is, when did you call her?
I didn't.
Never.
Okay.
Coming up, the details of the loan are disputed.
She tells me she has cancer. Would I loan her $2,000?
I had asked him for the money, and I didn't think that he would do it.
Did you tell him you would pay him back?
Plaintiff Bud Terusa says Catherine paid him back with a bad check. He's suing for a personal loan. Defendant Catherine Lettieri says she owes nothing because Bud offered to help pay for her cancer surgery.
What do you have to say, sir?
What I have to say is I can't understand how a person could bear a child and then forget about it. Forget about it. He's got a child. How could somebody do that? You know, because when she was born, I was at the hospital, and I adopted her, you know, because some people are just screwed in the head, like, I just couldn't understand. I can't understand people like that. And I've been her father ever since she was born. She lived with me, and I love her. There's nothing to do.
Let me say this, sir. Let me say this. The reason why I'm asking these questions, let me say this, ma'am. The reason why I'm asking these questions is because now you say you didn't feel that much responsibility because you weren't sure whether or not you're her father. But here's how you handle that situation, because you don't let a child grow up believing that you are their father and just ignore them their entire life because you're not sure. It's your responsibility to resolve that issue so that the child doesn't grow up believing they are being ignored by their father. You see what I'm saying?
Yes, I do.
I'd like to say something, if I may. The only reason I actually sought out Mr. Terusa, my mother died, so I called to let him know.
I'm sorry to hear that.
It's been a while, but thank you. So I called to let him know, and his response was, Joe, because they called my mom Joe, she was great. She never bugged me for money.
Tell me about the $2,000.
We would meet at Starbucks every so often. And one day she comes in and she tells me she has cancer and that she has to have breast surgery. Would I loan her $2,000? And she said, I will pay you back by taking the money out of my 401k and putting it in my checking account, and you'll get it by the end of June. 3 days later, I met her. I gave her $2,000 cash. The reason being, Your Honor, I'm a cancer survivor. So I know what it's like to go through cancer, not only physically, but mentally. So I lent her the money. She said she'd pay it back. After I loaned her the money, I called her a few times about her, how she was doing. She said she was having complications. After that, she wouldn't return calls. So finally one day, I called her at her job. That's the only way I could get a hold of her, and she answered the phone.
How long after you had given her the $2,000?
May, I gave her the money, and this is July 13th or something when I called her at her work.
What do you say the agreement was with the $2,000?
That's not
Let me
how-
ask you, what was going on with you at the time? You had been diagnosed with cancer?
Yes, I had some precancerous tumors that I had been receiving radiation treatment for.
Did you not have medical
No, I had
insurance?
surgery. I did, but it was pre-existing, and then they were taking them out. And one, I'm a single mom of 3. I know that doesn't have anything to do with anything, but I was going in for surgery. I needed some help with that. I was going to give the kids money, make sure I had 2 older boys, fill up the fridge. I was going to be out of commission for a while.
Okay.
And also, I needed to get some cosmetic to help with the surgery.
Okay.
So I'd asked him, and he agreed.
What was the conversation you say you had?
You know what? We had talked off and on. There were a few times that I had called, and I had asked him for the money, and I didn't think that he would do it. And I hadn't talked to him. I think it was a week, and he called me. He's like, well, do you want the money or not? And I was like, oh, okay, because I really didn't think I'd get it.
What did you say when you asked him for the money?
I said, yeah.
What did you say?
I told him what was going on with me, but I had told him prior what was going on with me. I had told him because initially,
Did you tell him you would pay him back?
Yes, I did. Eventually,
When?
I did tell him I'd pay him back.
Coming up on Judge Faith, a paternity test is offered by the court to bring closure.
We will pay for a paternity test if you will agree to take one to have this issue resolved once and for all for your family. Are you willing?
Plaintiff Bud Terusa says Catherine promised to pay him back. He's suing for a personal loan. Defendant Catherine Lettieri says she owes nothing because Bud gave her the cash as a gift.
How long after you say he gave you the $2,000 did you tell him, I'll pay you back?
About how long?
I can't remember. I can't.
Was it weeks? Was it days? Months?
About a month.
And the reason why you had that conversation about paying him back was what?
He's at the bottom of my totem pole, like with everything that's going on in my life, and I just wanted to get him his money and get him away from me.
Because he was asking for it.
Yeah, he was very upset.
What
He
do
was
you have to say,
really
sir?
upset.
Yes, wait a minute.
What do you have to say?
Should I come up here?
Yes, please. Do you mind switching places? And who are you?
I'm her brother. I'm Catherine's brother. My name is Scott. Just for a little perspective on the paternity thing, when I was a young boy, I was 8 years old, I was living with my mother. She's a divorced parent, and she was on welfare at the time. She went on to become an amazing psychologist. She got her degree. But at that time, she came home from work one day, and she told me that she was pregnant. And I was like, oh, what are we going to do? And she's like, I'm going to keep the baby. But the father, and she told me that that was the father, she said he doesn't want anything to do with us. He's disavowing us. He knows he's the father, but he's not going to be part of our life. He never helped with anything. We were poor. My mother was on welfare. She was on food stamps. Never heard a word from him. She was working 3 jobs at one point. It was just ridiculous. For years and years and years this went by. We never heard from this guy.
She was Wonder Woman, my mother.
She calls me a couple of months ago talking about how this gentleman is harassing her, leaving threatening messages, which she can play for you, saying that either you do this the right way or the wrong way.
That's
threatening
a lie.
her. Play it. She can play it.
The easy way or the hard way.
The easy way or the hard way. And the guy, he's a dirtbag. We should be suing him for hundreds of thousands of dollars for back child support. It's unbelievable how an individual like this can get away with what he's gotten away with. It's unreal. I just am beside
Your
myself
Honor,
thinking.
I would just
Okay,
rather not
thank
have
you.
anything to do with
Thank you,
him.
sir. Thank you. What do you want to say?
When I told her we can do this the easy way or the hard way, this is the hard way. All
Court.
she had to
You
do
mean
was pay me
going
the
to
money.
court. You can stay seated, sir.
Yeah, that's okay.
You know, do I have to stand here and let these guys say vulgar things about me? I don't do that to them. She told me to come to her workplace to get the check. And I go there, she gives me a check, and she says, don't cash it until tomorrow. So I go to her bank, I got the guy here I went to see. He says, well, it's no good.
A week later, I was served with papers. A week later.
No, I went
sorry?
to...
A week later. Like, it wasn't even a week later.
Why did
I
you
was
write
served
him a
with papers.
check if you knew there wasn't money in your account?
There was going to be money on my account. And at that time, I just wanted him gone.
There was not, money wasn't there.
The money eventually was there. It was being transferred. It takes a minute. It does, especially when you're taken from, you know.
My only question that I was trying to understand, what was the agreement at the very beginning, at the time the money was given, because that's the agreement, that's the key issue here. And you're saying you made it clear from the beginning that this was $2,000 that she needed, that you wanted to be paid back to you. Is that right, sir?
No, what she said was, I have money in the 401k, and I'll transfer it over. So I said, okay.
And you will give her the $2,000?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Coming up, Judge Faith rules. And now, Judge Faith rules.
I want to reserve my judgment in this case and make an offer to you, sir, to have this issue resolved once and for all for your family. We will pay for a paternity test if you will agree to take one and resolve this once and for all.
If I am her father, then does that affect how you rule?
No.
All right, you want to do it, do it.
Are you willing?
I do want to know. Let's do it.
She wants to know. Let's do it. Let's do the exam. In closure, there's obviously a lot of issues here, but we are going to try to resolve this once and for all with the paternity test. So you will know in your own mind, not because that's going to change anything, because it doesn't change anything, right? But at least you know. And you don't have to continue to hear this question and this denial. Judgment in this case is for you, sir. $2,000. I'm ordering you to pay the judgment.
Thank you.
Good luck.
I'll be taking the paternity test. I'm absolutely open for it. It will bring some closure, but it doesn't make a difference. This is my dad. This is the guy that coached my Little League team and has been there since the day I was born, so it doesn't really matter what the results are.
It was a fair ruling. I just a little upset about what they try to make me out being such a horrible person, because I'm not.
Bud decided not to go forward with the paternity test.